All right, so since Joe Biden took office, we've been trying to gauge exactly what is his strategy going to be with Iran moving forward. So just a quick little reductive rundown. Basically, Joe Biden and Obama signed the 2015 or 2014 Iran nuclear agreement. It was a decent agreement for the time. It did the job. Iran was following in correspondence with the agreement, with the terms of the agreement, according to international observers. Then, of course, Donald Trump takes office and he completely blows it up. Even though it was a deal that was involving a bunch of other countries and stuff, the United States just fucks them over and completely screws Iran, stabs them in the back after they were following along with the deal as they were supposed to. Donald Trump pulls out without any plan whatsoever as to what he's going to do instead of that agreement. And so we're still left with the aftermath of that. Obviously, Trump escalated even further by slapping them down with illegal sanctions that over the course of the pandemic especially aggravated the health crisis in Iran and restricted medical supplies going into Iran. In addition to that, he obviously assassinated Qasem Soleimani, one of the top Iranian generals, just massively ramping up tensions with them, almost popping off World War III. So Donald Trump massively escalates tensions with Iran and blew up the Iran nuclear deal. So Joe Biden is faced with a pretty difficult circumstance coming back into office, but he's lucky because Iran, even after all of that, is still willing to come back to the table and say, listen, we are going to stop enriching uranium, okay? We'll get back in that original deal as long as you first, United States, who screwed us over in this deal, drop the illegal sanctions first, okay? Then we can get to the table and we can start talking about this, but drop the illegal sanctions first. That's basically what Iran has been saying. Joe Biden is saying, nah, fuck that. Even though we're the ones who stabbed you in the back, we still think that you should have to rejoin the deal first before we drop the illegal sanctions against you. And Joe Biden is being egged on by 43 senators. Bipartisan group here. 43 senators to Biden use full force of diplomatic economic tools to check Iran. Okay, I got news for these 43 senators. This is what we're already doing. This is exactly what Donald Trump's approach was, and it was a complete failed disaster. What did this get us? What did being war hawks towards Iran, posturing towards Iran, assassinating their leaders, slapping them down with economic sanctions, which are warfare, how did any of that get us anywhere close to anything other than war with Iran, which, by the way, is what a lot of these people want? But it's completely nonsense. This has already been our approach. We cannot be more hawkish towards them economically, politically, or militarily. It's impossible. But here's what they say. A group of 43 senators led by Senators Robert Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey, Jim Risch, a Republican from Idaho, and Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina, urged President Biden in a letter Thursday to use the full force of our diplomatic and economic tools to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. So the letter outlines actions the Biden administration can take to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions that will garner bipartisan support in Congress, including an agreement with U.S. allies in the UN that prevents Iran from producing such weapons. Wow, it's almost like we had an agreement like this that was already in place. So between the lines, no. But here's the important part. What they're saying, okay? Looking ahead, we strongly believe that you should use the full force of our diplomatic and economic tools in concert with our allies of the United Nations Security Council and in the region to reach an agreement that prevents Iran from ever acquiring nuclear weapons and meaningfully constrains its destabilizing activity throughout the Middle East. Oh, yeah, we have to constrain Iran's destabilizing activity throughout the Middle East, not the United States, you know. Hey, by the way, we overthrew Iran's democracy in the 1950s, okay? The United States overthrew democracy in Iran. That's how we ended up with the current situation that we have in Iran right now. So you want to talk about destabilizing the Middle East? How about we talk about the fucking United States? How about we talk about the United States illegally invading Iraq and destabilizing Iraq? How about we talk about the United States illegally occupying and participating in bombing Syria? How about we talk about that? How about we talk about the United States funding jihadists on the ground in Syria? None of that is destabilizing. No, I guess it doesn't count as destabilizing when it's us, right? It only counts as destabilizing when it's Iran. But okay. So continuing on, here's basically the disagreement between the two sides. Iran's leaders indicated in January that they're willing to strike a nuclear agreement with the Biden administration, but Biden said last month that Iran will first have to stop enriching uranium above the level set by the 2015 nuclear agreement before the countries can revive the deal. So Iran is being the bigger man in this circumstance and saying, we will come back to the table with you after you assassinated one of our top generals. I can't overstate how big that was. That would be like if Iran had assassinated Mike Pompeo. And then you think that the United States would be willing to go back to the table with Iran as if everything was normal? let alone be the bigger man in that situation. It's ridiculous. So the fact that they're even willing to come back to the table is amazing. We should be begging to come back to the table. So they're coming back to the table and saying, drop the illegal sanctions on us, and then we will get back in correspondence with the agreements of the original deal. That is not unreasonable. That is not unreasonable by any stretch of the imagination. But Joe Biden, being the war hawk, the imperialist that he is, still thinks that Iran should have to get back into what the original terms of the agreement were before the United States drops these illegal sanctions that, again, are in many ways harming civilians in Iran. So that's the situation that we have right now. I mean, the entire thing is just absolutely absurd, okay? Joe Biden is taking the most hawkish approach you possibly could outside of just going to war with Iran right now. What you need to do, it's very simple, okay? You go to Iran, you get back on the table, you drop the illegal sanctions, and you say, hey, sorry about that guy before us, Trump, he was pretty crazy, right? Anyways, let's get back into this nuclear agreement as soon as possible, okay? This isn't complicated. This really is not complicated. There's no justification whatsoever for this hawkish approach that these people are saying that we should take, okay? We are already as far right. We are already as taking as imperialist an approach to this as we humanly possibly could. So again, it's really simple. Get back in the original deal, be the bigger man, go fucking apologize for slapping them with illegal sanctions that ended up killing civilians, and maybe even apologize for, killing one of their top generals illegally. So yeah, this is really simple. This is absurd. Of course, we're seeing this from a bipartisan group because imperialism in Congress is a bipartisan issue. Both parties, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, fund our bloated military budgets, promote overseas illegal wars. Obviously, Joe Biden was one of the biggest proponents of the Iraq war, which was illegal. So, of course, this is going to be his take. But it makes it no less better, and it makes it just as equally stupid and wrong to take this approach.